and he did this like crazy, like old guy, just crazy guy comes into our office who's this like marketing guru, and of course, we're all skeptical especially because we have an office full, I think out of the 11 people, like we have 10 engineers, and engineers are usually really stubborn, smart people, and so like, they're like, we'll think what we want to think. So this guy comes in, this like wacky guy, and he's like, asked us each individually what we thought MyFit was, and we all had different answers, so we were like, crap. And so like, that was a good workshop though, like, so we're working on branding and positioning, and I guess kind of the most immediate thing that was really helpful is we would make these, kind of grids where you can map your competitors out on a grid and really figure out like what you want to call your turf, which is really important when you're positioning yourselves. And we're doing something that's like, it's on the fence too, right? Like what we can do is we can show you how to incrementally increases your chance of being accepted, which is like pretty powerful. So we can say, we have enough data where like if you log into our site, we can say, if you raise your math SAT score specifically by 90 points, your chance of getting into NC State goes up 3.4%. And so like, but we can do that for everything. Like we have so much data now, we can be like, okay, you want to get into Stanford. Well, statistically, if you're torn between doing soccer this year and joining the debate club, people that joined the debate club had a 4.8% higher chance of being accepted. And so like, we have to be very careful that we don't position ourselves as, we're showing you how to game the system basically. Because once you have enough data, you can figure the games out, right? And so like we found this crazy thing out. So if this is SAT scores we did it at Harvard and MIT, right? And so basically we noticed this kind of trend for SAT scores and acceptance rate, and it was like this. Like this was at Harvard, and then it went like this. And so this is like acceptance. I can't spell. Check this out. This is my trick. Like if I ever can't spell a word, I can spell acceptance. I'll just abbreviate it and put a period after it. So they're like, oh, I think you meant acceptance. It's a good trick. Yeah, and so.
Must be that NC State thing, huh?
Yeah, I'm sure the guys at Duke can just spell everything, but at NC State, I'm just gonna trick people. No, so this is acceptance rate for math SAT at Harvard. And so when I ran the numbers, like there was this weird dip at the end. And so this is a perfect score, right here. And so what I found out is that colleges play a lot of games too when you're applying, right? And so I was like, why is Harvard rejecting people that have perfect scores right up until they have perfect scores, and then they reject people, this little groove here? So what we found out is I ran numbers on MIT too, which is traditionally more of a math kind of school. And what was happening is that a school bases its budget off a yield, and so their yield is basically, Harvard has a 90% yield, and that's kind of how its prestige is measured. So they know if they give out 10 acceptance letters that 9 of you are going to come if you get accepted. That's a pretty powerful number, right? I think state, let's say, has a 60% yield because it's a huge school. There's like 30,000 people there. But if they forecast their yield to be 60%, like, what does that mean based off what I just said? Like, so if state has a 60% yield, what does that mean? I don't mean to call you out. Teachers used to call me out. I always wanted to do it, so. Just kidding. No, yield is just, all it is basically like, NC State has a 60% yield, so if NC State gives out 10 acceptance letters, they know 6 people will come.
Right.
And so it's like how many acceptance letters you give out versus how many people you're really sure are going to come. So if it's like a super crazy good school like Harvard, they have a high yield because they know, like, we're Harvard, we're sweet. If we give out 10 letters, 9 people are going to come. So the way they base their budget is off that, because if 70% of the people come that they don't account for, and they plan for 60, then they overbook their classes by 10%, and then you get, your standard like, freshman biology class where there's like 800 people in the room and the professor has no idea who you are basically. But if they get, 40% of the people come, then there's a problem because the class sizes are too small and they have to move teachers around, and unfortunately sometimes lay teachers off, And so what we found out is this yield here needs to be protected if they want to hit budget. So Harvard, they found out if the people that traditionally had perfect math SAT scores that got accepted to Harvard wouldn't come because they'd go to MIT instead. right? And so Harvard plays this game now where if you have a perfect math SAT score, statistically it's in their best interest to reject you because they think they'll lose you anyways to MIT. So do you see how that works?
Yeah.
It's like kind of crappy though, right?
Right, yeah.
So we find a bunch of games like this that colleges play that we can't publish right now because going back to the positioning and branding thing, like our interests need to be aligned with the university's interest because ultimately, you know, we can help them to forecast that yield number. So as enough people use our app, we can have a pretty darn good idea of being able to say like, we're 90% sure that if you accept this kid based on his interest and where else he's applying, that he'll actually come. Which is pretty powerful for the universities too, because if they base their budget off that, we can possibly get a part of their budget in return for analytics like that, which is kind of cool.